Welcome to the deep dive. We dig into the sources, pull out the key lessons, really give you the insights you need.
That's right.
And today we're tackling something lots of people wonder about. How do you actually make that first million? We're looking beyond the hype.
Yeah, exactly. Forget the get-rich-quick stuff. We've gathered a really interesting set of stories. These are from successful Australian entrepreneurs, really profitable businesses.
And it's a diverse bunch, isn't it? We're talking everything from like haircuts and beauty products to financial services and, well, even selling waste coal.
Yeah, that one's a classic. Just Cuts, Model Co., Aussie Home Loans, FastFlowers.com, Link Energy. I mean, it covers a lot of ground. Mobile phones, travel, matchmaking.
So the idea is to pull out the common threads. What were the actual strategies, the golden rules they followed? What risks did they face?
And importantly, how they navigated the tough times. A lot of these insights are framed around how they handled the 2009 economic downturn, the GFC. It really tested their mettle.
Right. So our mission here is to synthesize all that, give you a sort of shortcut to that hard-won entrepreneurial wisdom.
A playbook, basically,
Yeah.
based on real experiences, not just theory.
Okay, let's dive in. Where does it all begin? It has to start with the idea, right? The genesis.
Usually, yeah. But what's fascinating is how often these million-dollar ideas seem, well, almost deceptively simple on the surface.
Simple ideas, but maybe complex execution. Is that the theme here?
That's a great way to put it. We call it the black box fallacy. You see the simple solution, but you miss the mountain of work behind making it actually work and making it trustworthy.
Okay, give us an example.
Daniel Achow, founder of Service Central, his idea.
Yeah.
Super simple. People needed reliable tradesmen, right? Plumbers, electricians.
Yeah, instead of just like picking a name from the yellow pages and hoping for the best, we've all been there.
Exactly, that blind faith approach. Achow wanted to fix that. His first thought was, okay, let's build an automated system, a black box.
Like an algorithm that just matches jobs to tradies perfectly.
Precisely. Feed in the job details, out pops the perfect tradesperson. He actually sank about $4 million into building the IT for this.
4 million, wow. And did it work?
Well, no, not as a purely automated thing. He realized pretty quickly that you couldn't automate trust.
What do you mean?
If it was all automated based on, say, user reviews, what stops competitors from gaming the system? Give themselves 5 stars or trash-talking rivals.
Right. The human element, sabotage.
Exactly. So the automation dream kind of died. The real value, the unique selling point, wasn't the tech. It had to be something else.
Independence, like proving they were truly vetting people.
That's it. Radical independence, backed by a very human, very thorough vetting process.
Right.
They landed on this 4-point check.
Okay, what were the 4 points?
Right, first. Are they properly registered? Do they have the right qualifications? Basic stuff, but you'd be surprised.
Okay, makes sense.
Second, insurance. Comprehensive insurance. And here's the kicker, the really eye-opening stat from the source.
Yeah.
About 75% of the businesses who applied to be listed failed the check based on insurance alone.
Wait, 3/4? Just on insurance? That's huge.
Isn't it? It instantly shows you the value Service Central was providing, just filtering out the uninsured, the risky operators. That failure rate basically proved the business model.
So registration, insurance, what else?
So then they added the subjective layer. They called it the granny test.
The granny test. I like that. What does that entail?
Basically, would you be comfortable having this person work in your grandmother's house? Are they polite? Do they present well? No swearing, right image, the soft skills.
So hard checks on the business side, soft checks on the personal conduct side.
Exactly. That combination built the trust. It justified their fee, which was like $3,000 a year plus a cut of each job. The value wasn't the algorithm. It was the rigorous human vetting.
It makes sense, solving a real pain point. And it seems like a lot of these successful ideas started exactly there, solving a personal frustration.
Oh, absolutely. Turning personal pain into profit. That's a recurring theme.
Like Jonathan Baruch with FastFlowers.com.
Perfect example. His big idea didn't come from market research. It came from being an 18-year-old kid trying to buy flowers for his girlfriend.
Huh. A universal experience of confusion.
He called it excruciating. He had no idea what to buy, how much it should cost. The whole process was just intimidating and unclear for a young guy.
So he built a business to fix that feeling, make it simple, clear, easy.
Yep. And what's really impressive is his discipline early on. He started it from his parents' house, literally running orders off his mobile. Super lean.
And he resisted taking easy money, right, during the dot-com bubble.
He did. He turned down what he called silly money offers from VCs. He had the foresight even then to realize that keeping control and building a sustainable business
Hmm.
based on solving that core customer problem was way more valuable long-term than a quick, inflated cash out. That took guts.
It really did. And Dennis McFadden at Just Cuts, another one who spotted a gap, not by inventing something new, but by seeing what wasn't being offered.
Right. He looked at the market. You had your fancy salons doing colors, perms, the whole artistic thing. Expensive, time-consuming.
And on the other end,
The basic barbershop.
mm,
Maybe a bit intimidating, not always focused on, say, women's cuts or just a quick trim.
so a gap in the middle.
Exactly. McFadden realized tons of people, especially busy people, didn't want the art project. They just wanted a haircut. Quick, convenient, and crucially cheap, without the upsell pressure.
That led to the big pivot, right?
Right.
Away from being a stylist himself.
Totally. He shifted the whole model. High volume, standard cuts, focus on speed and value. And that culminated in that legendary $7 haircut promotion.
Which wasn't just a short-term stunt, it kind of redefined the brand.
It did. It cemented Just Cuts as the go-to for a fast, affordable, no-fuss haircut. It was genius, really, seeing value in simplifying the service.
And that idea of finding value in something overlooked, it connects to another really powerful strategy we saw. Finding value in what others literally throw away.
Oh, you're talking about Peter Bond. Link Energy.
And
Now that is an origin story.
right. He starts out $15,000 in debt because his freight partner bailed on him. Broke. How on earth does he make his first million from that position?
By selling garbage. Actual garbage.
It sounds unbelievable. What was it?
It was coal. But not just any coal. It was the stuff that spilled during unloading at the ports. You know, it gets mixed with dirt, dust.
Mm-hmm.
But the big mining companies considered it contaminated. Waste. Muck. He just dumped it.
And Bond looked at this pile of muck and saw fuel.
Exactly. He saw BPUs where others saw trash. He somehow won a tender to clean up this spilled coal.
How would he even start?
Get this. He started raking it up himself, literally with a rake. He gathered about 1,000 tons of it.
Raking coal waste.
That's
Determination.
Incredible hustle.
Yeah.
Then he had to figure out, okay, who buys low-grade, slightly dirty, but really cheap coal?
Who did?
He targeted places that used a lot of energy but maybe weren't super fussy about the grade. Think local hospitals, brickworks, operations that just needed cheap heat or power.
And they bought it.
Yeah, for about $17 a ton. He was getting the raw material for basically nothing, cleaning it up a bit and selling it cheap. Pure arbitrage on waste.
That's amazing. And the source mentioned his clients eventually told him to, like, get his own office or something?
Yeah, they apparently told him to get his own house because he was so broke he was borrowing their front-end loader and living incredibly lean. He found an abandoned coal yard, set up shop, and turned that waste stream into his first million by 1989. Just
Wow. From muck to millions. It's incredible. And there's a parallel, maybe less grimy, with Michael Paul at Pack and Send. His light bulb moment also came from a logistical headache.
yeah, not physical waste, but wasted time and effort.
Yeah.
He described trying to send a single desktop computer from Sydney to Melbourne.
Oh, yeah, back when computers were huge beige boxes.
Exactly. He said it was a 2-day ordeal. First, finding the right packing materials. You couldn't just chuck it in any old box. Then finding a carrier willing to take a one-off, bulky item, plus all the paperwork. Just a massive hassle for one item.
And he thought there has to be a better way, a one-stop shop.
Yep. But, like many innovators, he faced skepticism. His peers apparently told him, Australians will not pay for a convenient packing service. They thought people would just do it themselves, however badly.
That resistance is often a good sign, isn't it? It means you found a pain point others are just accepting.
It really is. Paul was so convinced, so determined to prove that convenience and professionalism in small-scale logistics were valuable that he went all in. He sold his house, moved in with the in-laws, borrowed money from family, all to launch that first store in Parramatta.
He bet the farm, essentially.
He did.
Mm.
And he proved that if you remove the hassle, you make it easy and professional, people absolutely will pay for it. Convenience has real value.
Okay, so we've seen these ideas often come from solving real problems, sometimes personal ones, sometimes finding value where others don't. But a great idea isn't the whole story, is it?
Not even close. The real test often comes when the environment gets tough. External shocks, recessions. That's where resilience is forged.
And the sources really dig into the 2009 global financial crisis period for these Australian businesses. Even though Australia didn't have the same kind of banking collapse as the US, it was still a period of huge uncertainty and downturn.
Absolutely. And what's striking is how the survivors didn't just batten down the hatches. They often used the downturn strategically.
How so? What was the first big strategy?
Well, the most obvious one, maybe, was getting ruthlessly efficient,
Mm.
but not just cutting randomly strategic cost management.
This wasn't just panic mode then, it was more calculated.
Definitely. Look at Daniel Achow at Service Central again. They were already profitable going into the GFC, but the threat of a prolonged downturn forced him to adopt what he called a worst-case scenario mindset.
So prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Sort of, but he acted on the worst-case trep. He said the crisis actually helped them become more profitable
By cutting.
by forcing a really deep preemptive look at every single cost. They radically cut overheads, streamlined everything, and yes, unfortunately, had to make some preemptive layoffs to make sure the company was lean enough to survive potentially years of tough times. It was painful, but strategic.
That sounds like foresight. And Charles Anstis at Mandela Financial Group had a specific method for this, didn't he? Zero cost accounting.
Yeah, that's a fascinating discipline. It means you don't just assume last year's budget rolls over. You start from zero for every single expense line item and have to justify its existence.
Question everything.
Literally everything. Do we really need this service? Can the photocopier honestly last another 12 months? Can we slash the entire marketing budget for now? It's about critically analyzing necessity versus nice to have to guarantee that cash flow stays positive, obsessing over costs to protect the profit.
Brutal, but effective in a crisis. But it wasn't all about cutting back, was it? The downturn also seemed to open up unexpected opportunities.
That's the really interesting counterpoint. While they were cutting internally, the external market was shifting in ways that actually helped some of them.
Like Achow again. How did the crisis help Service Central externally?
Well, think about it. The GFC hits, construction slows down, jobs dry up. What happens to tradesmen?
They need work. Desperately.
Exactly. Suddenly, Achow found tradesmen were queuing up, eager to register with Service Central. The crisis improved the quality and quantity of his supply side because they needed the leads his platform provided.
Ah, interesting. So the economic pressure worked in his favor there.
And not just with tradesmen. Bigger companies also became more open to partnerships. Achow landed deals with major utilities like AGL and True Energy.
Why would they partner up during a crisis?
Because those big companies were also looking to cut costs. They wanted to reduce their fixed staff overhead. So outsourcing overflow work or specialized jobs to Service Central's vetted network became a really efficient option for them. Deals that might have been impossible in boom times suddenly made perfect sense. Crisis fostered collaboration.
We saw a similar dynamic with Jim Cornish at EcoWash, the car wash service, right? Demand actually increased.
Yeah, it's a bit paradoxical. But demand rose for two almost opposite reasons.
Okay.
First, you had professionals working longer hours, maybe stressed about their jobs,
Yeah.
less time, less energy to watch their own cars. So demand from the time poor went up.
Makes sense. What was the other reason?
People who were hit financially often needed to sell assets, including their cars. And if you're selling your car in a tough market, what do you need?
It needs to look immaculate, pristine, to get the best price.
Exactly. So whether people were short on time or trying to maximize resale value, they needed a clean car. EcoWash benefited from both ends of the spectrum.
That's a brilliant example of a somewhat recession-proof niche. And like Acho, Cornish also found big players were more willing to talk.
Yeah, he landed major partnership deals. The source mentions the American Automobile Association, for instance. These large organizations, in tougher times, were suddenly keen to pool resources, form alliances, share customer bases, things they might have resisted when times were good, and they felt invincible on their own.
Okay, so cutting costs, finding opportunities and market shifts. What about the really bold moves? Investing when everyone else is retreating?
Ah, yes. The counter-cyclical investment strategy. This one takes real nerve because you're spending money when cash is tight and the future is uncertain.
Seems incredibly risky. Who did this?
Shelley Barrett at Modulco, the beauty brand. She actually increased her spending on marketing and PR during the downturn.
Wow. What was the thinking?
Her bet was based on a belief about psychology. She believed beauty products are essentially recession-proof.
The lipstick effect.
Pretty much. The idea that when big luxuries are out of reach and the news is grim, people still want or maybe even need small, affordable treats to feel better. A new lipstick, a nice cream. It's a psychological boost.
So she doubled down on that.
Yeah, she pushed aggressive promotions, like gift with purchase deals. While competitors were going quiet, cutting their ad spend, Modulco was visible, offering value. It was a calculated risk to grab market share cheaply while others hesitated.
And Dennis McFadden at Just Cuts did something similar, but with branding.
He did. Instead of slashing his marketing budget, he hired a top-tier agency, Saatchi and Saatchi, to do a complete rebranding.
During the recession? That's bold.
Very. But his logic was entirely forward-looking. He knew the economy would eventually recover. And when it did, he didn't want Just Cuts to look tired or dated. He wanted to emerge from the downturn looking fresh, modern, and ready to capture that returning consumer confidence. He invested during the slump to be ready after the slump.
That takes serious long-term vision. And then there's Penny Spencer at Spencer Travel. Her industry, corporate travel, must have been absolutely hammered.
Oh, massively. Companies just stopped traveling overnight. Budgets frozen. It was brutal.
So what did she do? Just cut everything?
Well, she had to manage costs, obviously. But crucially, she didn't just shrink. She said the crisis renewed her entrepreneurial spirit. She forced herself to diversify.
How?
She pivoted into completely new territory for her business, the leisure cruise market. And she started doing things they'd never have considered before, like local leaflet drops for holiday deals, stuff that was miles away from their high-end corporate focus.
So the crisis forced innovation and diversification out of sheer necessity.
Exactly. She turned a sector-wide disaster into an opportunity to build new, completely different revenue streams, making the business ultimately more resilient.
That resilience often came from being in the right niche or adapting to find one. Grant Alloway at AD20N, the online ad agency, actually had a great recession.
Yeah, timing and technology were on his side. Remember, 2009 was really the first major downturn where online advertising was a mature, scalable alternative to traditional media like print and TV.
And in a crisis, what do businesses demand from their advertising?
Accountability, transparency, cost efficiency. They want to know exactly what they're spending and exactly what results they're getting.
Which digital advertising provides much more easily than a billboard or a TV ad.
Precisely. So while overall ad spending might have been down, the shift towards digital accelerated. Alloway's value proposition, cheaper, trackable, transparent ads, was exactly what CFOs wanted. His UK business was maybe flat, but then he landed eBay as a massive client, and his Australian revenues apparently jumped 200%. The medium itself was countercyclical.
And Andrew Benefield at Mrs. Fields Cookies. Similar story to the beauty products.
Yeah, he saw 11% growth during the downturn. Same logic. Affordable treats. As he put it, a $5 cookie and coffee isn't a major discretionary purchase like a BMW.
People cut the big things but still allow themselves the small comforts.
Exactly. Those small, comforting purchases hold up surprisingly well, or even grow when times are tough.
And maybe the most surprising niche resilience story is Trudy Gilbert at Elite Introductions, the matchmaking service. Her business soared because of the crash. That seems counterintuitive.
It does, until you hear her reasoning. She observed a significant shift in people's priorities because of the financial shock.
What kind of shift?
People started to reevaluate what was truly important. The relentless pursuit of money, the materialism of the boom years. It suddenly seemed less fulfilling when the bottom fell out of the market. She said people became less materialistic.
And started looking for
meaningful connections, fulfilling personal relationships. Instead of focusing purely on wealth accumulation, they started prioritizing finding a compatible partner. So demand for her high-end matchmaking service actually increased as people reassessed their life goals in the wake of the crisis. That ability to see opportunity in crisis or to find resilience in unexpected places, it really speaks to the mindset, doesn't it? The sheer mental fortitude involved.
Absolutely. And it's crucial to remember that for many of these people, reaching that first million wasn't a smooth ride. Many of them had to face absolute disaster first.
Oh, yeah. Near-death experiences are almost a prerequisite, it seems. John Ilhan, the founder of Crazy John's mobile phones, his story is just wild.
He started with basically nothing, right? Borrowed cash from his parents.
$2,000 from his parents. Opened his first shop in Brunswick, Melbourne. And get this, he had 0 phones in stock on opening day. 0.
How do you open a phone shop with no phones?
Pure hustle and promises. He built the business incredibly fast, largely on handshake deals and sheer charisma. But that rapid growth was shaky.
What went wrong?
In 1996, Telstra, their main supplier, radically changed the commission structure.
Yeah.
Ilhan hadn't built sophisticated financial controls. He was flying by the seat of his pants, essentially. The change hit him like a ton of bricks. He lost his first million and, in his words, very nearly went bankrupt.
Devastating. After building it all up from literally nothing, what pulled him through that? How did he fight back?
It was dumply personal. He said the driving force was thinking about his kids, who were only 3 and 7 at the time. He couldn't stand the thought of them having a father who went bankrupt. That fear, that responsibility, it fueled him.
And he learned a crucial lesson from it.
A massive one. He realized his strength was sales, vision, motivation, what he called my drug. His weakness, detail, finance, the nuts and bolts,
So he had to admit that weakness.
and act on it. He immediately went out and hired people with strong finance backgrounds, people who could handle the details he hated or wasn't good at. That freed him up to focus on his strengths, on motivating the team and driving the vision. It was a critical pivot based on self-awareness after failure.
That theme of facing financial ruin. John Simon at Aussie Home Loans experienced something similar, maybe even more public.
Oh, absolutely. Simon had already lost $1 million in earlier property ventures, but the real crucible for him was a joint venture with the State Bank of South Australia that went disastrously wrong.
What happened?
The venture collapsed, leaving Simon personally on the hook. He described having his arse on fire, facing $5 million in debt. And this was during a time of sky-high interest rates in Australia. It was a potentially company-killing, life-ruining situation.
$5 million in debt back then? That's terrifying. How did he even begin to climb out of that and launch something as ambitious as Aussie Home Loans?
Pure, focused rage. Seriously. He was incandescently angry about how the big banks were treating ordinary Australians during that high-interest period. He'd experienced their inflexible, arguably predatory behavior firsthand when he was in trouble.
So it was personal vengeance, almost.
Partly, yes, but also a sense of mission. He was driven by two things: protecting his own family, ensure his kids could get an education, and this intense desire to stick it to the big banks, to disrupt their cozy oligopoly and offer Australians a fairer deal on home loans. He channeled all that debt, all that pain, all that anger into building Aussie Home Loans. It was fuel.
It's how they frame these disasters that's key, like Mark Alexander Erbert, the Pubboy guy. He had a truly awful year in 2007.
Biblical, he called it. And look at the list. A major fire, a flood, significant theft, a divorce, and $20 million in debt, all in 1 year.
Most people would just curl up and quit after that.
Right. But he refused to label it failure. He deliberately reframed it. He called it a valuable life lesson. Painful, yes. Expensive, definitely. But a lesson that forced him to shed the non-essential parts of his empire, stop chasing growth for growth's sake, and refocus ruthlessly on core profitability.
And he had some pretty blunt things to say about trust after that experience, didn't he?
Yeah, pretty controversial.
Yeah.
He said he'd trust bikies over half the bankers he knew. His point, I think, was about reality versus facade. He felt that some groups, even perceived outsiders, operated with a clearer code of loyalty and straight-talking than many in the corporate world he dealt with during his crisis. Failure taught him who his real allies were.
So once they get through these trials, maybe make that first million or rebuild after losing it.
Yeah.
Does the money itself change things? How do they define wealth then?
That's one of the most fascinating shifts. For many, once a certain level of financial security is reached, the definition of wealth and success becomes much less about the number in the bank account.
Like Les Shirato, the coffee guy. Cantarella Bros, Vittoria Coffee.
Exactly. He explicitly says his job isn't about the money. He just loves the business, selling coffee, selling wine, dealing with restaurants, hotels.
Yeah.
That's his passion, the financial success. He calls it a fringe benefit. The joy is in the work itself.
And Alan Jones, the broadcaster. He claims not to be extravagant. What's his benchmark for being a millionaire?
It's surprisingly simple, focused on personal comfort and generosity. He said his measure was basically being able to drink good whiskey from a crystal glass, having an air-conditioned room, and affording a housekeeper. Simple comforts.
That's it.
Well, the real pleasure, he emphasized, wasn't spending on himself, but the freedom to share it. His example was sending his father on a dream trip to the Melbourne Cup. That ability to give experiences to loved ones, that was the true measure of wealth for him.
That resonates. Andrew McManus, the music promoter, echoed something similar about people, didn't he?
He did. He said, beyond basic comfort, the most important thing is friends. Surround yourself with good people and you will be a wealthy person. Full stop.
Although he did admit to one early extravagance.
Yes. His first big splurge was apparently a white Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
So, maybe a little extravagance is okay. But the core message was about the richness of relationships.
And Michael Paul, back at Pack and Send, after selling his house and everything, what did success look like to him later on?
He found joy in something completely unrelated to business, bird watching.
Mm.
He bought himself a really high-end pair of binoculars, like $3,000 worth.
So wealth enabled his hobby.
Sort of, but his perspective was more nuanced. He said success wasn't the cash itself. Success was the business running so well, so efficiently, that it gave him the time and the freedom to pursue his passion for bird watching. The health of the business created the life he wanted, not just the bank balance.
Okay, let's just back to the how. Building this success. Self-belief seems critical, but also coaching, getting outside help.
Hugely important. Peter Switzer, the financial commentator and advisor, is a great case study here. He made a deliberate choice early on, Master of Commerce degree, over a promising rugby league career. Calculated.
And his wealth-building strategy was quite specific.
Very. Classic property play. Buy older houses in really good blue-chip suburbs. Renovate them well. Live in them to take advantage of the capital gains tax exemption on the primary residence. Then sell, release the equity, and repeat. Discipline, strategic accumulation over time.
A smart financial mind. But even he needed coaching.
Yeah, and the story is brilliant. He apparently resisted getting a coach for ages, despite advising his own clients to seek expert help all the time.
Classic case of do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. Until a coach actually called him out on it publicly, basically saying, "Why aren't you following your own advice?" That hit home. He realized even experts need external accountability, someone to push them, challenge their blind spots, keep them honest. It required real humility to accept that.
That links to Margot Cairns at Sapphire International. Her motivation wasn't purely financial either, it was more of an emotional realization.
Right. She tells this story about a time when her family was actually deep in debt, but they were having a wonderful day together, a really rich day in emotional terms. Her 10-year-old daughter suddenly said to her, "Mummy, we already are rich. We have each other."
Wow, that's profound.
It completely reframed things for Cairns. That feeling, that realization of non-monetary wealth became the driving force behind starting her consultancy, Sapphire. And now a lot of her work involves almost counseling high-paid clients, like CEOs, helping them figure out what they actually want from life beyond just the next promotion or the next million, challenging their own definitions of success, daring them to dream differently.
Finally, in terms of practical management, some of their communication and leadership styles were quite unconventional, weren't they?
Definitely. Back to John Elhon at Crazy John's. We talk about him hiring finance people because that was his weakness. But he took it further. He made a really radical decision for CEO in a fast-moving retail business.
What was that?
He got rid of his computer and his BlackBerry.
Seriously, in the mobile phone business, how did he function?
He realized they were a massive time sink for him, pulling him into administrative weeds where he wasn't effective. He preferred face-to-face communication. Vision by sight and verbally, as he put it.
So who handled his emails and admin?
His executive assistant. She managed everything, filtered it, and just gave him the absolute essential points needing action or decision. It was extreme delegation, allowing him to focus 100% of his energy on motivating staff, making deals, and driving the big picture vision. Anything that wasn't that, he delegated or eliminated.
That's fascinating. And Jennifer Nielsen at Loan Market Group. Her leadership style came from a very different background.
Yeah, she learned about teamwork and leadership working on a tiger prawn trawler. Gritty, hands-on, everyone pulling together.
How does she apply that to a corporate finance environment?
She leads by example very directly. She insists on an open plan office, no big corner suite. She personally returns client calls, even now. And get this, she shares her personal assistant with other executives.
Shares a PA. Why? Most execs guard their PAs jealously.
She believes PAs often become gatekeepers, barriers that isolate leaders from what's really happening on the ground, the real world of the business.
Yeah.
She wants that direct connection. And interestingly, after having her own child, she became much more focused on creating a supportive, flexible environment for working parents, leading with empathy. Accessibility and transparency seem key for her.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Amazing stories of grit, innovation, failure, and recovery. If we boil it all down, what are the absolute golden rules that someone listening right now could take away from this deep dive?
Yeah, let's try and synthesize the core principles. We can group them into, say, financial strategy, mindset, and people.
Sounds good. Let's start with finance. What's rule number 1?
It sounds almost too simple, but it came up again and again. Andrew Benefield, Peter Switzer. They hammered this home. Save, save, save.
Just build that capital base.
Exactly. Start young if you can. Teach your kids. Benefield suggested teaching kids to save half their pocket money. It's about building that discipline early. Savings are the seed corn for everything else.
Okay, save. What's next?
This comes from Achow and Anstis. Be conservative in planning, not action. What does that mean? It means don't kid yourself. When you're building your business plan, assume the worst. Assume lower revenues, higher costs, longer timelines.
Like Acho prepping for a long GFC.
Precisely. Build your model to withstand the storm. But the not action part means once you have that conservative plan, you execute decisively. And related to planning, Endiethos's rule. Plan meticulously for your outgoings. Avoid nasty financial surprises. Know where your money is going.
Makes sense. And the ultimate financial truth.
You know it. Peter Switzer, Penny Spencer, echoed by Ilhan's and Simon's experiences. Cash is king. Always. Focus relentlessly on cash flow. Profit is theory, cash is reality. Manage your receivables, manage your payables, know your burn rate. Lack of cash kills businesses faster than anything else.
Okay, financial discipline is foundational. What about the mindset, the psychological game?
Rule number one here has to be follow your passion. Angus Geddes, Angela Vithoulkas, Trudy Gilbert. They all live this. If you don't genuinely love what you're doing, it's almost impossible to sustain the effort through the tough times.
And your passion is infectious.
Totally. Your excitement motivates your team, it convinces customers, it attracts partners. If you're not genuinely fired up about it, why should anyone else be?
But passion needs pragmatism. What's the next mindset rule?
Embrace failure and change. This is critical. Angus Geddes had a great line. There is no such thing as failure in business. If one path closes, you just find another. It's learning, not failing.
Like Simon having to pivot constantly, or Alexander Erber reframing his disaster.
Exactly. And Hans Holzbosch also stressed this. You have to be flexible, ready to change direction rapidly based on market feedback or changing conditions. Don't be rigidly attached to your first idea if it's not working. Adaptability is survival.
And what about when you're just stuck, paralyzed by fear?
Charles Anstis had the perfect antidote for that. When fear is the problem, activity is the answer. Don't just sit there overthinking, worrying. Do something. Take one small, concrete step forward. Action breaks the paralysis. Momentum builds confidence.
Love that. Okay, finally, the rules around people. Because nobody does this alone.
Absolutely vital. First rule, maybe the most important for growth, hire smarter people.
Don't be intimidated by talent.
Never. Jonathan Baruch, Angus Geddes. They stress this. You want people on your team who are better than you in specific areas. Acknowledge your own weaknesses like Ilhan did with finance and actively hire people who fill those gaps. Delegate your weaknesses, as Anstis advised. That's how you scale beyond your personal limitations.
Makes perfect sense. What about focus? Who do you focus on?
Two key groups, and they're linked. First, John Simon's core belief, forged in his own tough times. Your number one customers are the people who work with you, your staff. Treat them well, build loyalty, invest in them. If your team feels valued and secure, they'll take care of the external customers. Everything flows from that internal loyalty.
And then the external customers.
Be smart about your focus. Daniel Achow applied the 80-20 rule. Really understand and nurture the 20% of your customers who generate 80% of your business. Know who they are, what they need, keep them happy. And finally, Jennifer Nielsen's ultimate service mantra. Treat every single customer as if they're the last one you will ever get. That level of care, that attention, build incredible loyalty and word of mouth. #outro.
Wow. Okay, that's a powerful synthesis. We've covered so much from literally raking coal waste into cash to simplifying flower buying, navigating recessions with bold branding moves, and facing down personal bankruptcy.
It's an incredible range, isn't it? But the common threads are definitely there. That deep resilience, seeing opportunity where others just see problems or waste, that strategic mix of cost control and sometimes brave investment during downturns, and managing risk by consistently focusing on solving genuine customer needs.
And it really strikes me how many of them ultimately didn't define their success purely by the dollars. That first million was maybe a gateway, but the real prize seemed to be the freedom, the passion, the ability to build something meaningful that reflected who they are.
Yeah, the money enables the life, but it isn't the life itself for many of them.
Which brings us back to that idea from Andrew Benefield. He said, money is just an idea backed by confidence.
Confidence in the idea, confidence in yourself.
Exactly. And if Angus Geddes is right, that often the biggest barrier isn't the market or the competition, but our own internal fear, the fear of starting, the fear of failing, then the final question for you listening has to be, what great idea are you maybe holding back on right now? And what's the absolute smallest step, the tiniest bit of activity you could take, maybe even tomorrow, just to start backing that idea with a little bit of confidence?